Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. Today, as iterated throughout the week, I'm going to talk about, yet again, the Ukrainian-Russian peace deal that is in the works by Donald Trump, and specifically looking at the troubles that Donald Trump is facing, some caused by himself and his own ego, some caused by the coalition of the willing. And what are they? What is the coalition of the willing to do? They are willing to sacrifice every Ukrainian in the hopes of one day being able to break Russia to the point where they can turn it into a new African wealth extraction hellhole, because the Europeans are losing control over Africa to many players. So, because these people only think that the only way to produce wealth is to extract it, because they are ideologues that have no idea how you produce wealth, they are going to do that. Or they're going to attempt to. Canada is most likely the backup plan, so when the Ukraine war is won by Russia, it's going to signal some bad times for Canada. But the final thing that is going to cause trouble is that Russia is not being listened to by friggin' anybody. So, let's talk about the problems Trump is having. That he's causing himself. One, he's entertaining the fact that the coalition of the willing can just self-invite themselves to a meeting he said he was having alone with Zelensky, and then he would get back to the Russians and be the intermediary, so to speak, even though, let's be real, this is a proxy war between the West and Russia, and the proxy is Ukraine. Like, they are almost completely irrelevant to this. Even though the position that Zelensky has put himself in makes it very difficult for him to sign a peace deal. As I keep saying, he has surrounded himself by Banderite zealots who are extremely pro German fascist and super duper ultra nationalists. They will not make any concessions. They will think any concession is a crime punishable by death. So Zelensky's got a lot of problems. But if I get back to the point, Trump is continually allowing the Europeans to butt themselves into this peace negotiation when they are really not required. Because the only reason the Europeans have been able to send stuff to Ukraine is because of America. Like, if America backs out, the war's over. Everybody knows that at this point. So they are trying to drag Trump along. And by allowing them into the room, he gives them credibility. And he's doing this because he wants the photo op. All right? He wants to be the world power broker with everybody surrounding him and, hey, look what I did. I got all these assholes into a room and they bent to my will. This is amazing. This is America at its best. That is what Trump is doing. And it's going to backfire. Because Trump has this really negative trait that whoever the last asshole in the room with him is the one he agrees with. Typically. Which is why Susie Wiles, his chief of staff and former pharma whore, and totally, in my opinion, a deep state operative, cockblocks the ever-living hell out of who gets to see Trump and when they get to see Trump. So, Trump's got all that problems, and I don't think Trump understands enough of the details of Russia's red lines and how Russia can't actually, like, Russia can negotiate with the Zelensky government, but they can't sign a deal with the Zelensky government. For the reason being that from the Russian perspective and reality, Zelensky is a two-bit dictator. He has overstayed his welcome, which, the American left and left around the world thought Donald Trump would do in his first term and are setting up that they'll think he'd do in his second term. Where they get this notion, I have no idea. But they believe somehow that. But anyways, so by all definitions, whether you use by the definition of the Ukrainian constitution, world precedent, however you wanted to use as a definition, Zelensky is a dictator. So, why that is important, that means the Russians can't sign with Zelensky an actual peace deal because that would legitimize him. They can't do that. So, that's not going to happen. So there has to be an election in Ukraine. There has to be a new government formed, plain and simple. And I don't see Zelensky very much giving that up. Now, I will give Trump credit. He was able to get Zelensky in a suit and a tie instead of acting like, hey, I'm on the front lines. I'm the European Che Guevara. Like, I mean, he kind of is, but you don't want that comparison made. And Trump is, I've just read a Truth Social post that from this morning, I guess it's this morning, that I'm recording Thursday, that is not exactly straightforward. Trump ends with there would be zero chance of the Ukraine war happening if he was president, blah, 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 same stuff. The paragraph before that is about Joe Biden not letting the Ukrainians attack. It's not encouraging. And repeats the fact that, like, Russia's are the invaders in the country, and it's like, technically, but, if you bring this down to the smallest scale possible, and you look at, like, you and your neighbor, all right? If you repeatedly do something directly, and for the only reason to antagonize your neighbor, are you going to be really surprised that after a decade of that, they're going to knock on your door, and when you answer, they're going to start knocking your lights out? Like, is it really an invasion when you've been the one provoking it? Now, obviously, that's a smaller scale thing, and it's much, when you scale it into the Ukraine-Russo conflict, it's a lot more complicated than that, because, you've got Ukraine trying to ethnically cleanse Russians from parts of their country, and just, that's never a good thing to be a part of. Very similar to what Israel is doing with Gaza, but for a decade. And, Ukraine has used terror tactics the entire time. Places of sanctuary not being so safe. But anyways, like, shit's going on there. So now the problem moving forward with Trump allowing the coalition of the willing is they are smart enough to know how to manipulate Trump. Why do you think Maloney was in that meeting and was brought along? All right? It's not because she's smart, it's because Trump kind of likes her in some weird way. Same thing with Macron. All right? It was full of people that have either recently capitulated to Trump in some way, or people that Trump is like, hey, you know what? I kind of like you for a reason, even if it's not a good one. And Maloney brings up the fact that if we're going to get a peace deal, Ukraine needs the equivalent of an Article 5 safety guarantee. That is a Russian red fucking line. All right? Because the equivalent of an Article 5 Article 5 of NATO would be if Ukraine is attacked for some reason, it's on like Donkey Kong and it is global thermonuclear war. That is what Article 5 states. Like, Article 5 is, if it's invoked and people agree to it, it is on. Never forget that. Article 5 is a stupid defensive pact. It's not as bad as an offensive pact, but it is still bad. Especially when you are moving NATO ever closer to the very clear demarcated red lines of the Russians, the country with the most nuclear weapons on Earth. You don't want to fuck with the Russians. History has proved this over and over. And the fact that, again, the coalition of the willing is there, they are going to be the serpents whispering in Trump's ear to get either delay it. We already saw it. I think it was Keir Starmer or someone said, yeah, we'll meet back here in like a month. Like, he's already trying to stall it. I mean, they all are. Like, they keep talking about Russian red lines, which I guess I should then talk about Russian red lines. Because, like, Russia has capitulated nothing so far in their negotiation. To be fair, if any other country was in the position of Russia, their terms would be harsher. Russia, likely all they want is the negotiation of the 4 territories that they've got control of, that voted to join Russia. Therefore, from the Russian perspective, are now Russia. Okay? You're going to have a demilitarized either zone or entirety of Ukraine. You are going to get rid of the Banderites in some form. Zelensky has to go. NATO is going to be nowhere in Ukraine. What else are some of their lines? Crimea will be formally recognized. Has to be at this point. And I'm probably forgetting a lot of them. There's like a lot of small stuff too, that really can't be negotiated because, like, Russia's winning. And again, if anything goes wrong in these negotiations, which I think it will, like, either it's delayed or slowed, I think Trump is going to try and do his best. I just think Trump is his own worst enemy. And at the very least, he should be setting himself up harder to exit. Be like, hey, I tried to get peace, just let these fuckers go. America's done. Maybe we'll sell weapons to, the Europeans, and whatever they do with them, that's whatever. They're setting up that narrative, sort of. I think they should lean harder into it. But the funny part about that narrative is the selling of the weapons. All right? For the most part, the U.S. ain't got no fucking weapons to sell. The backlog and backorder of Patriot missiles, which Ukraine desperately needs and wants, is 7 years. If you place an order now, maybe in 7 years, you will get some missiles. And that's just one weapon system that the Ukrainians need. There is a massive problem with 155 millimeter artillery shells. There's it's something like the West produces the same amount of artillery shells in a year that Russia's producing a month. So in the Russian style of slow walking the war, it very much benefits them in attrition terms. And this is a philosophy the West has lost. They said, we want the new, more advanced stuff. They took the World War II Germany route of, oh, we'll build what we can of very advanced weapon systems, and we'll win that way. Who won World War II? Through mass production. Wasn't the Germans. They made very simple, very easy to build weapon systems that they could just crank out. Like, people forget this. It's not until very late in the war that the Russians had their own manufacturing base up and running correctly. Before that, the Americans were supplying not only themselves, the British, the French resistance, the Dutch resistance, and all of the other freaking allies with basically a lot of shit. They were also almost entirely supporting the Russians as well. That is the mass production that won World War II. You compare that to the Cold War, where this shift happens. The Americans get a whole bunch of Nazi scientists, and they go looking for more advanced weapon systems again. What does the Soviet Union do? They mass produce shit. Now, is it of high quality? Some of it is. AKs are freaking legendary for their reliability. The RPG, I think they're at the now 9 system, is like ridiculously cheap and easy to build. Mass produced the ever living hell out of them, and they're quite effective for what they are. It's not a what's it called? A javelin missile system, but for every like javelin system you pump out with enough munitions, like you've got like a squad of RPG 9s. It's that ridiculous. So you've got this divergence of philosophy when it comes to guns and just weapon systems in general, that when you're fighting a war of attrition, which the Russians have perfected at this point almost, it really benefits the Russians because they just keep producing shit. So you've got all of that, and now on top of that, as I have repeatedly stated, Bibi is getting ready to launch something. He is going to try something, and it's not just my opinion now. Alexander Mercouris over on the Duran, one of the best, if not the best, geopolitical channels that you can find on the internet, far surpasses everybody, all right? Also has come to the same conclusion that I said in September, because I was working off of, well, that's when Bibi's trial is due to start. He's saying sometime in the autumn, which September, October, maybe into November, there's going to be something in the Middle East, which, yeah, obviously. And the problem there, again, is that is going to distract Trump, all right? Plus, you have Republicans, I mean, not Republicans, I mean, yes, the warlord Republicans, but the Senate coming back to sit in a couple of weeks. time, and they're going to derail or attempt to derail as well. Trump has to get something done quickly, or at least send it so far down the road quickly that nobody else can really stop it. If Trump is able to do this, this is fantastic, and he has politically outmaneuvered everybody. But Trump is his own worst enemy, as I have said before. He is making capitulations, allowing the Europeans to be there and have a say instead of saying, bitch, what the hell are you doing here? Get the hell out. You think you have an opinion? Guess what? You ain't fronting the bill. Your opinion means diddly. Like, he's not doing that type of actual power moves that he should be doing. He kind of did it with the meeting on Monday where, there's a picture out there of the European leaders, like, sitting in a row of chairs outside the room while Trump's talking to Zelensky, and it very much looks like, little toddlers waiting to see the principal. It is a power move, but he could have done more by saying, no, get fucked. This is a meeting between me and Zelensky. You want to talk? We can schedule something in 3 months when I'm free. Like, that's the power move that he should have done. Publicly, by the way. Completely shut out the EU. But, again, Trump wants the photo op. It's why he's pushing for a trilateral meeting between himself, the Russians, and the Ukrainians. It's so that he can stand in the middle and be like, look at me. I am the peace broker. And so far, he's done a pretty good job of being the peace broker, if we completely discount the Iran debacle, which is still brewing in the background as we speak. What is it? Rwanda, the Congo, and Cambodia and Thailand. He helped with, was it Azerbaijan and Armenia? And I think there's like one other that he helped broker a ceasefire, not peace, ceasefire. Big difference. We'll see if lasting peace breaks out, but he's doing a fairly good job, except for when it comes to Israel, because he's surrounded by people who think Israel can do no wrong. Like, the high deferentiality to Israel is just insane in his administration. It's really unsurprising, but like, when you've got Bibi doing what Bibi's been doing the last couple years, someone needs to slam on Bibi's brakes. If only to protect, what could go horribly wrong if Bibi overextends, or whoever comes after Bibi, let's be real, overextends, and the world has turned against Israel. All right? That is still the number one geopolitical mess that Israel has caused itself going ahead in the future. Is they have destroyed any real support once the boomer cons are gone, support for Israel is just done. And it's all Bibi. Thanks to Bibi. Oh my god, what's his name? Mike Huckabee. They got Mike Huckabee, one of the generation that very much grew up with the televangelists that would preach that, Israel is like the way back to the Lord coming again. Like, the people who die hard believe in or proselytize that Israel must be protected above all else. Like, that's what Huckabee grew up with, and he's getting pissed at Bibi. And just to reiterate, Bibi is going to try some shit relatively soon. Next couple months. What he's going to try, I haven't been able to suss out yet. Maybe I won't be able to. But if Bibi just launches more missiles and fighter attacks into Iran, don't be surprised. Expect a bunch of freakouts, but like don't be surprised. Like it is completely predictable because again, Bibi has allied himself with the extreme hardliners in his country that want to bring about greater Israel for religious reasons. Yes, they're a bunch of crazies. And everybody else in the political power factions is sick and tired of Bibi and is really not giving him a way out peacefully. Their way out is, hey, we need to get you out now before you destroy the country. So we're gonna do the legal route. Trump has already stepped in once to help save him. I don't know if he does it again. If he does, he's gonna screw himself over. Like, I truly think the best outcome that could happen, realistically, is Trump walking away from Ukraine. But I don't see that happening because I don't think Trump has it in him to, one, disprove the propaganda that's going to be thrown at him from the EU saying, "Oh my God, you're walking away. You're going to let the new Hitler wash over Europe and kill all the children," and like that propaganda bullshit. That's not true. Like, again, at most, I think Russia takes a land bridge to Moldova and then everything east of the Dnieper as well. Completely surrounds Ukraine. I think that's the most they do. Anything more of that, and you're going to have to pacify the country, and that's like a 20 to 40 year war of insurgency. And I don't think Putin wants to deal with that whatsoever. But I don't think Trump has it in him to walk away if that narrative reaches him, or if it's publicly acknowledged in the MSN. I don't think Trump has it in him to say, no, that's bullshit. The Russians are only going to take this much. Europe's not at risk, and this isn't our fight. Okay, this is not our war. I don't think Trump has it in him to do that. Reasons? Because he couldn't fucking do it with Israel. Israel overextended. Tried to suck the United States into a larger conflict with Iran, and he partially gave in. Partially. Not 100%, but partially. And he set it up so that Bibi would at least get another chance to do it again. So, I don't think if negotiations break down, I don't know if Trump has it in him to walk away. Especially with the Truth Social post that came out on August 21st. But then again, Trump doesn't write his own Truth Social posts. He like dictates it to someone. That's how Trump does electronic communications for the most part, from my understanding. So, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff up in the air, and there's a lot of things working against Trump. One of them being himself. So, we'll see what happens. We'll have to keep an eye on it, and I guess pray that it doesn't go way worse than it could. I don't think so. Nobody's pricing that in yet. Like, I don't even think there's like an insane someone just putting like $100 million bet that oil goes up. Like, I haven't seen any notice of that, because that's what would happen. Like, if the big money movers aren't even slightly hedging, and trust me, to the big money movers, $100 million hedge on oil going up is nothing, especially when you've got this shit going on in the background. Yeah. So that'll be the video for today. Hope everybody has a great weekend. See you Monday with I have no idea. I will come up with something. Until then, again, have a great weekend.